Hello and welcome to the MBOM podcast, where you will learn to master the business of yoga with guests from around the world who have experienced becoming successful yoga teachers, studio owners, and much more. Now, here's your host, Amanda Kingsmith.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the MBOM podcast. I'm so glad that you're joining me for today's episode. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Ceteris. Ceteris is a cloud-based accounting company based out of Charleston, South Carolina. Why do I have a cloud-based accounting company sponsoring a yoga business podcast? Because as yoga teachers, it's really, really important for us to focus on what we do best, teaching yoga, and allow companies like Ceteris to do what they do best, handle our accounting. As a yoga entrepreneur, dealing with your finances, accounting, and tax preparation can be an absolute headache. Ceteris specializes in accounting for yoga studios and yoga teachers and takes care of all of that work for you while giving you full access to your financial data and benchmarked reporting through their platform. If that's not enough, Ceteris Edge is built on top of QuickBooks Online and integrates with MindBody Online, so you don't have to change any of your current software. One of the things that I really love about Ceteris is that you get to work with a team and not just a person. With a team of experts behind you, you should never worry about what happens if your accountant goes on vacation. You also get industry-specific expertise. Your accountant should specialize in businesses like yours to ensure that they know how to optimally code and categorize your transaction. Finally, you get professional response time. There's a dedicated point of contact that will respond to your emails and requests within 24 hours. To learn more about Ceteris' yoga accounting and benchmark reporting solution, please visit www.ceteris.com, ceterus.com/MBOM, MBOM. If you sign up through MBOM, you'll get 50% off your first 2 months, and that's a deal you're not going to get anywhere else. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Yoga Boss Babe. Last week on the podcast, you heard from Yoga Boss Babe founder Liz Nguyen. She shared all about her yoga teaching story and how she came up with the idea of Yoga Boss Babe. It was so inspiring to hear how this amazing product came to be, so you should definitely go back and listen to that episode if you haven't already. If you don't know what Yoga Boss Babe is, it's a monthly lifestyle subscription box for passionate and motivated female yoga entrepreneurs who want to build and grow their business. Each month, you receive a box of goodies to keep you on track and feeling inspired with your business. So each month, a box is going to show up on your doorstep, and you have the pleasure of opening it up just like it's Christmas every single month. You get things like healthy treats, a book for the book club each month, different yoga-based products, and things to inspire your yoga teaching, like a brand new notebook with an inspiring quote, a candle, or a new type of cozy tea. For more information about Yoga Boss Babe, please visit www.yogabossbabe.com and use promo code MBOM15, so MBOM15, to get 15% off your first box. Now, on to today's episode of the podcast. I'm very excited to be joined by Kris Reid, who is the CEO of Ardor SEO, which is kind of a mouthful to say. And Kris is not a yoga teacher, but he is a yoga practitioner. So he has a strong understanding of the yogi mindset and the yoga industry. And he's also been working in SEO for a number of years. So this is a really, really great opportunity to learn all about SEO. I learned so much from this episode. Kris shares all about what SEO is, what's important when it comes to your SEO, and how to improve your SEO in a couple of quick, easy to do steps that, any of us yoga teachers can understand. So without further ado, here's Kris. I am very excited to be joined on the podcast today by Kris Reid, who is the CEO of Ardor SEO. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kris.
Hey, Amanda, it's great to be here.
And so you are originally Australian from your accent, but you're joining me today from Cambodia. Is that right?
That's correct. I've been living in Southeast Asia for about 5 or 6 years now. It's a great place to be.
Amazing. And what made you choose Cambodia?
Well, really, to start with, I was trying to escape a girlfriend, running away from her, and ended up in Cambodia. I liked the place. I then moved to the Philippines because that's a great place for business, and that's where our big office is, because the English level in the Philippines is excellent. But I'd much prefer living here, so I ended up moving back, and that's where I hang.
Nice. That's amazing. I like how I escape winter and you escape a girlfriend. It's like one of the same.
Everyone's running away from something.
Totally. Yeah, definitely. And so I was wondering if you could start by telling me a little bit about yourself, sort of how you got into the whole digital marketing, SEO worlds, where the idea for your company came from and that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure. So, I'm originally from Australia. I studied software engineering, moved to London to sell my soul to the devil and work in finance for a bunch of years. Thankfully, the global financial crisis came around and took my job, which set me on a life journey, which, was fantastic. I thankfully had a big war chest, so I traveled the world for 2 years trying to work out what the heck I wanted to do with my life. I started building an online game just for a bit of fun because I'm a programmer and wanted to learn some new software. And then as the game was getting ready, I was like, well, how do you get people to a website to play it? And my girlfriend at the time was Russian, and she asked me to move to Russia. I thought, sure, why not? But there was no chance of me getting a job because I didn't speak the language at the time. And so I thought, well, maybe I can make some money out of this online stuff. And turned out I was pretty good at it. And a whole bunch of years later, turns out I'm very good at it.
That's awesome. So is everything you know about digital marketing and SEO self-taught?
Yes and no. I mean, to start with, I had no idea what I was doing and just, and I certainly wasn't a businessman and, failed my way to success, which is the hard way to do it and I wouldn't recommend it. Where just last night I flew back from Chiang Mai in Thailand where I went to an SEO conference with 500 people. Most of them had flown in from other countries. And, a lot of the leaders there are my friends and, we have mastermind groups and talk about our businesses and what's working and what's not and how to help each other. So, yes, learning from others is, a great leap forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I can imagine too, it's the type of thing where, you kind of master one aspect of it and then the algorithms change or some other aspect pops up or another form of social media gets popular. And then you kind of have to relearn how to do all of that. Is that right?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, so with SEO, there's two camps. There's what's called kind of white hat, which is the good stuff that Google wants you to do, and black hat, which is kind of the naughty stuff that manipulates their algorithm. And if you're doing the black hat stuff, yes, their algorithm constantly gets better and better and they'll smack you down because that's what they're exactly trying to do. But if you're doing white hat, which is what they want you to do, which is basically providing good content, Google's whole responsibility is to find the search result that someone's looking for and make it a good user experience. So even if you have better content than me, if my website loads nicer and looks nicer, it's a better user experience. And so Google will prefer my site because the end user is going to, have a better time.
Okay.
So as long as you stay focused on providing value for your users, then I don't think you have to worry about updates.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. And so what are some of the black hat things? What are some of the things that you shouldn't be doing?
Yeah. So the way Google works, right, is, you can write a yoga website and I can write a yoga website. How does Google know who's the best yoga teacher? Well, it comes down to authority and who's talking about you. And it's not so much what you say because they can't trust that implicitly. They need to trust it explicitly by the external factors, which is who's linking to your website, who's writing about you. And these are called backlinks. So that's the link that you click on from one website to another. Basically, they're considered as votes. And not every vote is equal. The BBC is going to have a lot bigger sway than a local newspaper. And Yoga World magazine would have a lot bigger sway than a local yoga studio. So but basically the more links and the more authority you have, the better you're trusted and the quicker you'll rank. And there's lots of ways that you can artificially manipulate backlinks, and that is a bit naughty. I mean, it's cost effective and it works. I was just speaking with a guy that's really prominent in the industry, and he's 22 and a multi-millionaire because he's so awesome at doing this sort of stuff. But it's against Google's algorithm, and they are constantly trying to weed that out. So I wouldn't recommend really learning it. It's stay focused on what you're good at.
Okay. So let's not delve down into the things that we shouldn't be doing so much. So is this why things guest posts or getting featured in somebody else's posts, for example, if somebody features me in like best yoga business podcast or best yoga business websites, like that's good for my website.
Yeah, for sure. Because it builds up your credibility and your authority, and having another yoga website talk about you, it's really relevant. So like we work with quite a lot of yoga teachers all around the world, and one of our guys, Mike from Wellington, New Zealand, I met him a few years ago when he came here to Phnom Penh, and went, man, this guy's awesome yoga teacher. Like he used to knew David Guree when they were both like learning yoga, so like he's old school, and we help him spread his message. So we'll partner with other yoga studios in New Zealand and Australia and the US, and they want content for their newsletters and their website. And he's a really experienced yoga teacher that can provide awesome content. So they win by getting great content. He wins by boosting his authority. Google sees that and goes, oh, cool, this guy must be trusted. He must be a good teacher, and so he should rank better.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, that's cool. That's really good to know. And then, so what are some other like SEO basics? Because I feel like, most people who are listening out there are really good at teaching yoga. Most of them probably have a website, and if they don't, they should have a website. But I think it kind of stops at that. It's like, okay, I've like created this website, I've put it out there, and I don't know what SEO even is or like where to start with it.
Yeah, I got two recent stories on that. In fact, the yoga studio that I practice at here, Natharaj, about 2 years ago, they contacted me and said, oh, can you help us with our website? I mean, yeah, sure, because they've got an NGO that they have as well to teach yoga to people in the province and stuff. And so the studio is tied to the NGO, and they wanted to split it up. And so I'm like, yeah, sure, no worries. I bought them a domain, I hosted it, I put WordPress on there. Like, cool, all you need to do is write the articles and I can post them for you. 3 months went by, nothing. I sent them a little reminder, you want some help with this? No, we're fine. 6 months later, nothing happened. When the domain name came up for renewal a year later, I'm like, guys, it's been a year and you've not done anything. And eventually didn't renew the domain, and it just got shelved. And, it's a beautiful studio. It's a really great place, but they really struggle because they just don't get enough customers because they don't promote themselves very well. They do a terrible job. Where another example is one of my friends she actually turned me into an Ashtanga. I just really resonated with her when I first went to one of her classes. Mm-hmm. And she's the same. She's an awesome yoga teacher, but just not sure in her confidence. And I really pushed her to do a yoga retreat. Sorry, my throat's a bit hoarse.
That's okay.
And she eventually went, okay, fine, I'll do a yoga retreat. And man, like I had to kick her in the bum, like constantly. Promote it. Like get out there and like tell people, be confident. You're like such a great teacher and such a great retreat. And like she said to me one day, it's like, man, every time I post something on Facebook, we get new customers. I'm like, wow, amazing. You just got to get out there and do it. And her retreat, it was profitable. Everyone had a good time. It was successful. I said to her, look, you put in such a half-assed effort and it still was successful. Like imagine what would happen if you actually tried. And she was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. So the main thing is that being a teacher is only half the battle. You need to learn the other parts as well, and be confident in yourself. If you're a good yoga teacher and you provide good service, I love the saying, you can't be nervous when you're in service. And if you're serving people, like what's wrong with like saying, hey, I'm a great teacher. You want to come to my class? Like, so get out there and spread the word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think that it's really important for teachers to recognize that you're providing exactly like you said, this service, and it's the service that makes people feel really great in their bodies. Like most people leave yoga feeling like, wow, I should do this more. Like, why don't I do this more? And I think that being able to have other offerings that they can choose to spend their money on is really great. And being able to put those out there is a really, really good idea.
Yeah. But one thing that I do say about digital marketing too is for any business owner, you should stay focused on what you do. So like we're quite a large company and with multiple offices in multiple countries, and we used to have an internal accountant. And me not being an accountant doesn't know much about this stuff. I know that I need to read my P&L and the balance sheet, which I hate doing, but I know that it's important, so I look it over. And I'd been asking her to move us to QuickBooks for ages. She did everything in spreadsheets, but she wouldn't move us to QuickBooks, and I believe it was because she just didn't know how. And eventually we had a falling out, and she was gone, so I was like, oh, fine, we can actually get someone good. So then I hired a contractor who was in the US to get us into QuickBooks. And she was an independent contractor. She seemed really great. And she spent a lot of time getting everything, because she had to backdate a few months of accounts, got our QuickBooks almost set up, and then invoiced me again before I got my P&L. And I'm like, I'm not paying for anything else until I get the P&L. And we ended up having a falling out, and I ended up doing a dispute and not paying, and it was just a hassle. And then later on, I asked all my friends on the internet, I'm like, how the hell do I get a decent, reliable accountant? And someone recommended this company to me called Bean Ninja, and they're this accountancy firm that was originally from Australia, but they're based in the US now. I spoke to their sales guy. He was really confident. Knew all the accountant stuff enough to answer all my questions. Not that I have many, I don't know really what I'm doing. But the thing that he really stressed to me is, like, if the accountant working on my account gets hit by a bus, someone else picks up the job. There's continuity, but also that there's someone checking their work. They have procedures in place to make sure it's good. When I had my own accountant, I didn't have any procedures in place because I don't know what I'm doing or what to look for. And so the same should be with when you hire a digital marketing agency or person. You should know enough that you understand what they're talking about and what they're doing, but stay focused on what you're good at. Like, that's where your business is. It's not in doing the SEO bit. It's much better to stay focused on what you're good at, find someone that you like working with, and have them grow that part of your business.
Yeah, I think that is really good advice. And I think that's like when I first started, my boyfriend and I first started our travel podcast like about 3 years ago. And at that point I had literally been in Photoshop 3 times, but I had this stubborn determination to design our logo. And he's like, why don't we just pay someone? We're not that poor. And I was like, no, I want to do it myself. I want to fully commit to creating our website and creating our logo and doing all this stuff. And it was so frustrating. I finally created something that was okay. We've since then paid somebody to redesign it because we're like, okay, this was clearly done by somebody who doesn't know how to design anything. But it was one of those learnings for me where I was like, you know what? It's okay to let somebody who is better at this do this for me and focus on what I do well.
Yeah, exactly. Find out what you like doing and focus on that. I say that to my staff constantly, is do what you're passionate about, because if there's some part of your job that you don't like, I bet there's someone else on the team that likes doing that. We got analysts that just love going through spreadsheets all day. I can't stand it. So when there's that sort of work, I send it to them and they have a great time and do a way better job than me. So stick to your strengths.
Totally. There's always going to be somebody who enjoys something that you don't like doing as well, which is super cool. And so I have a friend that I work with one of the companies I consult with, and he is the king of outsourcing stuff. He uses services for people to pick up and drop off his mail. He has people who do his dry cleaning, and he's like, if it doesn't serve me and better my life, I pay somebody to do it. I was like, that's such a good philosophy to live by.
That is very nice. I mean, I've come pretty accustomed to living in Southeast Asia, and I don't think I'd like to live anywhere that I couldn't have a full-time maid anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's true. It just speeds you up, I got in late last night, and so I was up late this morning. I usually get up at 5, but, I was up late for this. But then you got someone to help you prepare everything and get you ready, and so you can be way more efficient with your time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, too, it's thinking about what... if you really don't like cleaning and it's something that you put off and you put off and you put off and it makes you not feel good because your house isn't clean. And on top of that, if you can afford it, especially if you live somewhere where it's really affordable to hire somebody to do that and you can give back to the economy as well, it's why would you not spend the money to do that?
Yeah, for sure. And focus on your strengths.
Definitely. So I think that is a really, really valid point. Obviously, if somebody out there is listening and was like, well, that sounds great, but, I'm a full-time yoga teacher. I'm not making that much money right now. I need to kind of like be able to better my website, maybe like 80% on my own. Do you have any suggestions for kind of like DIY SEO type stuff?
Yeah, sure. So one thing that you need to have is what's called a content architecture. So imagine if you sold dog food, right? You'd have your site with your homepage, and then you'd have small dogs, medium dogs, large dogs. And then under small dogs, you'd have Chihuahuas and Jack Russells. And, this tells Google what pages are more important, and it makes it really easy for your visitors to see what they need. So, if you get out a pen and paper and draw out what your main services are and make sure that they're all on your website, and then make a plan to make the pages that aren't. But as you're doing blog posts, so basically, as we spoke about how Google works is with backlinks. So you have kind of X amount of domain authority, and the more pages you have, the less authority each page gets. So say if you have 100 points of domain authority, the majority of that's going to be at your domain name, the homepage, and then your silo pages, so the small dog, medium dog, large dog, they'll get the next majority. So say maybe 50 points to the homepage, and then 15 points to these pages, and so now you're already up to 95 points, and so the other pages are going to get a whole lot less. And so if you just keep on throwing out content, they're not going to rank that well. And that's basically Google saying, well, she's writing all this stuff and no one cares about it, so why should I care about it, and why should I rank it? So a good rule is the 80-20 rule, is spend 20% of your time writing content and 80% of your time getting it out there. Any yoga teacher I know has yoga friends that probably have their own studios somewhere else, and provide content with them. A reciprocal link from someone is not as good as a one-way link, because it kind of, if I vote for you and you don't vote for me, it just means a lot more. But if we vote for each other, that's quite fine too, because we work together as a community. The businesses in the real world, they all work together, and so Google sees that too, and it's fine. But reach out to community, provide value for them. Go, I went on this great course or whatever. Write an article about it, or how you found yoga, especially if they're non-competing. So if you do a Ashtanga and they do a Yanga, whatever that one is. Iyengar, there you go.
Yeah, that's right.
Then that can be fine too, but especially if they're not in the same city. Our guy in Wellington works great with guys in Sydney, because, no one's going to New Zealand from your studio, so you're not stealing anyone's customers, so they're not going to be, worried about that. And yeah, that's certainly my advice: is reach out to the community and help provide knowledge for them, and they'll reward you by nice quality links. One reason why you can think of backlinks is so important. I do podcasts like this because I do like talking about SEO. It's what I do all day long. It's my passion. I'm just as passionate about this as I am yoga. So it's no real bother for me, but it provides value, and I'm going to get a juicy backlink. And it takes me an hour of time and an hour of work to get that, so you can think how valuable that link is. So when Google sees it, they go, cool, that's got to be a good link. He's put a lot of effort into that, because you can't fake it, right?
Right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Does Google take into account anything that's shared on social media, or is that totally separate?
That's very separate. Because anyone can post on Facebook, it doesn't really mean anything.
Okay.
So there are debates, and I haven't looked at enough. So if Donald Trump tweeted and gave you a link, that perhaps has a lot of kudos, because he's got 1 million followers. But unless you've got a Twitter account that has a gazillion followers, it's probably not going to do anything really.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was pretty sure that their algorithms were set up entirely different, but I wasn't sure if there was maybe some sort of connection there where Google could be like, oh, well, this was popular on Facebook, so, gives it some extra points or something like that.
Yeah, but again, like if you're out there providing value, like, we have some fitness, like no one really uses the internet or Google. So Google in Cambodia, everyone uses Facebook. And so we have lots of forums like, Get Fit forums and Healthy Phnom Penh. And so, people post articles and stuff in there about, diet and whatnot, and it helps build their personal brand. So, if you're out in whatever your community is and just keep helping provide them information, that'll, whether it's through Facebook or Twitter or wherever the people are you serve. Like there's a really good keynote speech by the marketing guy, Scott Stratton. He talks about like, you don't have to be on social media. So if you're going to be on it, be present. And he's like really big into Twitter. And so he tweets like crazy. But if you're not going to be on Twitter, then don't have a Twitter account. It's not necessary. Stick to where you're going to be vocal and talk to your customers.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that we've talked about quite a bit on the podcast before, is like, I think that, having a website and creating a business and having a logo and then thinking about, offline marketing and online marketing can become really overwhelming because there's so many different platforms to go on. But I think it's really important to find out where your customers are and then to be really gearing your efforts towards that. So if your customers are all on Twitter, then of course you should have a Twitter account and be active on it. But if your people aren't on Twitter, then there's not really any point being on there unless you just simply enjoy it and you get value out of it. But I think that if that's not the case, then there's no point just having it just to say you're on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. And so without getting too technical, one thing that we do for customers, which isn't that hard to understand, is like going after low-hanging fruit. So we'll have a customer come in that'll be like a lawyer or something, and keywords like personal injury lawyer, Chicago, are just ridiculously competitive. Like with AdWords, so the paid traffic on Google, those keywords can be up to like $500 per click, is mental. And so anything that's that expensive is going to be very competitive and so very hard to go after. And so we never go after those to start with. So like even yoga, your city name is probably pretty competitive. So it's not a really good place to start. It'd be much better to start with Ashtanga or Flow or Hot Yoga or whatever, some lower, less search volume keyword, but is so they're called long tail keywords. A short tail keyword is like yoga. And then as you get longer, like, how do I find a yoga teacher, or who's the best yoga teacher near me? These are called long tail keywords. And generally the longer they are, the more intent the user has of buying something. So like, you think about where you are in the buying journey. Like if you Googled, sports car or, whatever, what's that person doing? But if someone's Googling, Ferrari, I don't know, whatever type of Ferraris there are, then they're really looking for that particular car and might be further down the train. But if they were Googling, Ferrari dealership in Southern California, then that's a really good buying signal.
Right.
And so the same sort of thing for yoga as well. It's like, if you specialize in one type of yoga, well, make sure that that's the keywords you look for first. And so if you can do it manually. There's lots of tools that if you're going to do this stuff yourself, I would certainly go and have a look at. Semrush.com is a fantastic tool. They get a little bit expensive if you're just using them one-off for one site, but even if you're signed up for a month, you can download all the data and cancel your subscription so you only have to pay once. But
hopefully they're not listening.
Well, it's funny. Another tool, Ahrefs. Their marketing manager, Tim Solo, I just heard him at a conference speaking, and that's exactly what he said. It's just sign up for a month, download all the data, and that should keep you going for 6 months.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least it came from his mouth first.
Yeah. But what you want to find is the keywords that you're on page 2 for, because like the old saying, where's the best place to hide a dead body? On page 2 of Google, because no one's going to look there, And so to move from page 2 to page 1 generally doesn't take anything. So if you typed Ashtanga Yoga, my city name, look down, and if you're not on page 1, it might be on page 2, and see what page is there and see what adjustments you can do. If it's your home page, then there might be little you can do, but if you've got a service page that's Ashtanga based, what's the URL like? Could it be improved to pick that keyword better? Could the title tag be better? Could it be in the description? But you also have to remember, if you optimize for one keyword, you can de-optimize for another. But just make sure the pages really say what they are. If that's your Ashtanga page, make sure it screams, this is Ashtanga page. So Google knows what it's all about. But so we spoke a lot about external linking, so backlinks. Internal linking is just as important. So Google doesn't really know what this page is about. They read the content, right? But then they also need to put it in context. And so if you've got your other page that's your top page, right, your home page, and if we go back to the dog example, and it's linking to, click here for small dogs. Okay, cool. Google starts understanding that a bit more. And then under the Chihuahua page, it links, click back here to get more information about small dogs. Then Google sees all these internal links and goes, oh, cool. This page is really about small dogs. So you're helping the algorithm understand what your site's about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. That's super helpful. I was going to ask you where you find the keyword information. So I think having the semrush.com is really helpful, because I think that, when I think about, my website, I have WordPress, and I can go on the back end, and I've got the Yoast SEO, which I think is a really basic tool. Is that something you guys recommend, or?
Oh, for starting out, for sure, it's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it kind of gives the red, orange, or green, and it'll kind of tell you how to make the post better. But I think when you come from a position of not really knowing how to improve your SEO, you're like, okay, well, I'll just choose a keyword, and I'll choose some different tags to put in that are relevant to this post, but it's hard to know how you're actually doing or how it's ranking. And it's you kind of just put it out to the universe and be like, okay, it's out there now. I'm going to go teach my yoga class.
So, 2 other really good tips. One is searching, yoga, your city name. And if you go down to the bottom, it'll have related searches. And so that's what the most people are searching for in that area. And some of them mightn't be your type of yoga or whatever, and so they're not relative. But you can pick up all the keywords that are. So just keep clicking on them and find all the keywords that are relative, and you go, okay, cool. And you can manually see where you rank for them all if you'd like. But make sure you're in incognito in Chrome, because Google does try and manipulate the search results to show you what it thinks you want to see. And so you go to your website a lot, so it makes your website appear higher, because it goes, well, you like that website a lot, so I'll show you that one higher. And if you want to see your website, how Google sees it, if you go to Google and you type site, SITE, and then your domain name, and search that, it'll no spaces. It'll show you your site and all the pages ordered in their authority. So generally you'll have your home page, and then you should have your top silo pages, so the small dogs, medium dogs, large dogs, and then it should be whatever other pages are in that order.
Right. And so this is pages, not posts, or is this posts and pages?
Well, it'll be everything that's indexed, and anything. So as we were saying before, how you have so much domain authority, anything that you see indexed there that is rubbish, you should de-index. So you might have pages just anything that WordPress makes a lot of silly extra pages, and sometimes you don't want them indexed. Even having your privacy policy and your contact us page, those take away from your domain authority. So if you de-index those, so if you have WordPress as a website, which I highly suggest you do, because it's just the easiest to manage a website, and if you mark that page as no index, that means Google won't show it in their search results, and that takes the page authority away from that page and spreads it across all the others, and so they'll all float up.
Okay, and you feel like contact pages, what other pages should you usually take away?
Not providing value that someone's not going to search for and find, like your contact us page or your privacy policy. Even if you made some strange post about hiking to Machu Picchu, and you like don't need that to be indexed because I don't know, you just posted it because it was your birthday or whatever, but it doesn't talk about your products and services, you could de-index it and it'll not hand out that page authority.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I feel like it's really easy to like hear like, okay, create content. You got to get your content out there. So it's interesting to hear from like an SEO perspective how, it's really thinking about like what content is important, what people are actually going to search for, and that there's a lot more than actually just like putting your content out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about it like a crazy man screaming in the park. He's putting out lots of content, but no one cares about it. So, and so Google sees that too and just doesn't care about it. So you need to make sure that you're putting out content at the same rate of people taking notice. And when Google sees that, they go, "Oh, wow, everything that she writes, everyone wants to read. So let's index this stuff and rank it."
Right. Okay. Gotcha. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Fave Yogis. Fave Yogis is the newest yoga app designed specifically with yogis in mind. It was built out of Santa Monica, California by a practicing yogi and software engineer from MIT. Fave Yogis connects yoga students with their favorite yoga teachers. Teachers can post one-time events like workshops and retreats, as well as regular weekly classes. Then students can go on and see what their yoga teachers are offering. This is a really, really great option as a yoga teacher in order to connect your students to wherever you're teaching around the world. The app is free to download for both yoga teachers and yoga students. So all you have to do is pull up your apps on your phone, search Fave Yogis, FAVYOGIS, and sign up for an account. Then you can go ahead and invite your friends. So if you're a yoga teacher, you can go ahead and invite your students or encourage them to sign up via classes. You can start posting all of your offerings and start getting noticed from people all over the world. When you sign up, make sure you use the code MBOM, so that they know that I sent you. And so then when it comes to links, there's follow links and no follow links. Can you talk a little bit about like the difference between those? What's good, what's bad, what that means?
Yeah, so that came about, about 4 or 5 years ago, Google really got mad at people manipulating their search engine from backlinks. It was a very big thing. It still is. I mean, it's the best way to manipulate their engine. But they brought out these algorithm updates to really penalize sites that were manufacturing backlinks, and they're getting better at finding those still. But they brought out these codes called follow and no follow, which basically, Google thinks that they're the boss of the internet and they can make everyone do what they want, which is not quite right. But basically, if you liked some yoga mat and you put it on your website, but they paid you, mm-hmm. and you link to their website, you're meant to put no follow on that, which basically means this is a paid link. I'm not endorsing them I don't want my page rank to go to theirs, my domain authority. I don't want to push any link juice towards them. It's a paid link. So that's basically what a no follow link means. It's you saying, well, that this is a paid link.
Okay, interesting. So Google can know if you've been paid for the content based on the no-follow link?
Yeah, but, I mean, don't think you have to do it. I mean, you could pay for links all day long and you don't have to add no-follow links. How would they know, for one? And they're not the boss of the internet. They don't have to make people do anything.
Yeah, that's so true. It's kind of interesting how Google's become this, like, massive, massive thing, and they've kind of just made these rules where it's like, if you don't play by our rules, people can't find you, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah, exactly. It's meant to be a free place, the internet, but that changes with giant monopolies.
And so if you have those links, then is that one of the things that Google will penalize you on based on like you'll move down page or people can't find you as easily, that sort of thing?
I wouldn't worry about it so much. I mean, it's so they also put it on sites like Wikipedia, because Wikipedia does have a lot of authority, and you can go and add a link to Wikipedia yourself. And so they're trying to stop people doing that. So you'll find lots of like comment. So if someone has comments open on their WordPress site, those will generally be nofollow. And that's to stop people just spamming them and writing lots of crap to get a link, because the links have no SEO value.
Right.
And so that changes the person's mindset, that they can write a comment, and if the comment was good and interesting, then yes, it can send traffic to your website, but it's not going to help with SEO.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. And can you talk a little bit about the difference between SEM and SEO?
Certainly. So SEM means search engine marketing, and so that's the paid search AdWords. So that's one thing to keep in mind, right? That's where Google makes all their money. They don't make any money from SEO. In fact, they hate SEO, because if you're making lots of money because your website is ranking organically, well, you're less likely to pay for that traffic, and that's when Google doesn't get any money. So forever, they've been trying to disrupt the SEO industry and make it unstable, which is why a lot of big companies do like SEM. It's expensive, but it's reliable. You know that I spend $5 per click, okay, and I buy 10 clicks and I get a customer. Okay, so it costs you $50 and you get a customer. I can scale that. Where SEO, it's much harder to you do so much stuff. It's hard to even measure what got that result. I mean, we get good results all day long, but working out what exactly you did to get that result is very difficult, because there's so many moving parts. It's not even just you going up, it's sometimes your competitors going down. So it's very difficult.
Right. And so if somebody's listening and they're like, okay, what does that mean for like my website? Like, is there anything that you can do around that? Anything you can do to improve that?
Well, so SEM AdWords, it can be very nice if you've got a website that looks good and is going to convert. Well, you can have a look at AdWords. It's pretty easy to set up. Google makes it quite easy because that's how they make money. Mm-hmm. It's in their interest to make that as easy as possible, and it's not too hard. It can be pretty expensive. I'd imagine anywhere in the US, a yoga my city sort of keyword would be about $5 per click. And if that makes sense for you, so you need to calculate things like what's your lifetime value of a customer. So if your average customer comes to 7 classes and, a class is $10, so average customer value is $70. Well, okay, then you can spend $5 per click, and it takes you, it's 5 clicks to get a customer, so it's costs you $25, but, you'll make that back over the 7 classes. If that sort of math works for your business, then you can do it all day long. But, it can be harder because you have to really get that right. If you get your numbers wrong, then you're going to lose out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So for like the average person who's linking, or who's not linking, who's listening, who's like, okay, SEO is a little bit overwhelming to me. It's probably better to stick in like the SEO field than to go into the SEM field.
Yeah. So we just put together a Facebook funnel for a customer, and so it costs them $100 to sell a $25 product, which sounds ludicrous. But then they have a continuity plan which has big upsells. So now you've got a really good lead that they've spent $25. So now you can sell them on better things. So it could be the same, Okay, so it costs you, $25 to get someone to come to your studio, but now you've got a relationship with them, and you can sell them on a yoga retreat because they came to a class and they go, wow, she's a great yoga teacher. Oh, and she's got a retreat? Cool. And now that's a $2,000 retreat or whatever. So, if you need to kind of work out these numbers and see what makes sense for your business. And this is why I kind of mentioned before that it is difficult, and it's, to get it right, you're just better to work with someone that knows what they're doing so that you can focus on the bits that you're good at, like making an awesome yoga retreat or having an awesome yoga studio or being an awesome yoga teacher.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I mean, it's thinking about like, I guess what you're willing to invest to get a client who might end up being like an auto renew member who pays you like $90 a month and then, comes to the workshops you do once a week and then comes to your like yearly retreat. And that could end up being like super profitable if you spent $100 just to get that one person.
Yeah. Like what you just mentioned there, investment, that is something I constantly speak with new customers. Like I constantly get asked, how much is SEO? I said, well, it's not about how much it is. Like hotels.com, they literally spend tens of millions of dollars a year on SEO. Mm-hmm. But if you Google hotel and any city on earth, they're in the top 10.
Oh,
you think, what's that worth? Like that's, a mind-boggling amount of traffic that they would get from that. And so it's much more about setting some goals that you want and growing in a sustainable way. Like every business needs customers and new customers to grow. But you can't, unless you sell info products, you can't grow exponentially. Like, a yoga studio, they might be able to handle, say, 100 customers a week. And it's like, well, okay, they already have 80. Well, once you hit 100, you now need to hire a new teacher. And so then you can take the capacity up to 140. But, once you've got over that 100 mark, you need to make sure that you can consistently get that many students, or otherwise you can't pay for that teacher.
Yeah.
And so SEO is a really good way, especially once you're a bit established, because okay, I get 100 visitors a day. That brings me 10 class members, 10 new people to my classes, and from a conversion rate of this much. So it's 100 people, 10 class bookings. Well, that's a 10% conversion rate, and I get this much traffic. So you can just extrapolate, okay, I want this many students. Great, I need that many. You've got two levers, increase the traffic or increase the conversions. And so you can pretty much go, if I double the traffic, I'm going to double the conversions. Okay. And so you know how many new students you'll then get from that. And it gives you a reliable way to grow your business.
Okay, yeah. No, that's awesome. I think too, if anyone's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so over my head, I feel like it's a good time to you talk with somebody like yourself, Kris, since you're cool. You're obviously very passionate and very knowledgeable about it, which is super, super cool. So if you're a yoga studio, for example, and you've just started your business and you've launched your website, so you've got a bit of stuff up there. And so you would say like the biggest things to look at are, creating quality content, getting backlinks. So, getting your other yoga teacher friends to share your stuff, or maybe put it on their website, or guest blogging, something that gives you some sort of link back to them. Looking at how many pages you have and de-indexing the pages that aren't really valuable. Maybe doing some keyword searching. Is there anything else that people can do within that as sort of like the basics to getting your website to be ranking higher in Google, having more people finding it?
That's a pretty good synopsis. But one thing that I'd just really push is be proud of what you do. I mean, like you should be a yoga teacher because you're good at it and you like it. And you should be proud of that. It's just at this SEO conference, and a friend of mine that lives in Saigon. I mean, this guy's a kid. He's like 22, and he's tiny, and he's like such an introvert. And he just made this really nice post on Facebook this morning. He was on a stage speaking in front of 500 people. He was in a mastermind group with guys that have 7- and 8-figure businesses. Did a whole bunch of interviews with these sort of leaders in the industry. And he's like, man, it's so awesome. He still said, I'm still such an introvert, but, if you want to grow, you've got to push yourself. And he's such a, great inspiration, and he's just so young and amazing. And everyone should do that. If you're going to be a yoga teacher, well, be proud of yourself and push what you do. People don't mind, some of the best yoga teachers that I've been to, I've traveled around and tried lots of different classes. And they do mention what they do. Oh, we've got this workshop coming up, or we've got this retreat going up. It's like no one minds you offering more services. It's like they're at your class because they like you. So, have some self-confidence and, realize it's okay to self-promote.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point. And I think that something that in the yoga industry, especially, that's really prevalent, and I'm sure it shows up in other industries, but I'm just not as much involved with that, is I feel like a lot of yoga teachers don't like the idea of selling things. So it's this idea of sales has kind of got this idea of like, oh, greasy car salesman trying to upsell you on stuff you don't need. And something that I've really tried to do throughout the entirety of the podcast is reframe the way that we look at sales and sales funnel, and thinking about the fact that like, if somebody's coming to your class, they like what you're doing. Like if they don't like you, they won't come back. That's just how it works.
Yeah, 100%. So
if they're coming back and they're enjoying what you're doing, I feel like, getting their email address, getting them on your mailing list, getting them on your Facebook, like encouraging them to join your private Facebook group, encouraging them to check out your website, and then telling them about your other offerings. There's nothing that's greasy car salesman about that. It's just like giving them other things that they might enjoy.
And in my opinion too, as being a yoga teacher, it's more than just that one class. It's your duty to keep encouraging people and inspiring people, get them back to the next class, help them stay healthy and have a better life. That's your job. And so you need to do that by getting them on a mailing list and having them follow your Facebook page so that you can provide content so that they get inspired, go, yeah, I should get off my ass and go to class.
Yeah, definitely. So as somebody who practices yoga, you're not a yoga teacher. That's correct, right?
No, I just practice for sure.
Okay, cool. So I'm curious, so you practice quite a bit of yoga. You said you've practiced all over the world and you've interacted with a lot of different yoga teachers. You worked with lots of yoga businesses. Can you think of a couple of examples of yoga teachers who have sold their offerings in a really great way? And I don't mean specifically who they were, but just examples of oh wow, that teacher's doing a really good job marketing themselves.
And he does some bad bits of it too, but he's still doing well. So everyone probably has heard of David Gurry. I went to his retreat in Kovalam in India earlier this year in February, and it was a fabulous time. It was really great, and he's such a passionate teacher, and I love reading his newsletter, and that it's not just about yoga. It's often about lifestyle, and he'll have stories about people that have fallen off the wagon, and how do you come back to the mat, and just really inspiring stuff. And I practice Ashtanga, and I bought his video series, which was at a reasonable price, but it's he put a lot of effort in to make this great video series, and we'll have a lead primary here we don't really have an Ashtanga teacher here in Phnom Penh, and so our little group will put a video on Fridays and have a lead primary, which is nice. And so, yeah, he does a really good job of showing his passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like he does it in a really authentic way as well, letting people see that, there's more to him than just trying to sell his offerings. Because I think that that's something that sometimes holds teachers back from even starting a newsletter. Is they're well, I don't want to sell. And it's well, you don't have to sell. It's thinking about writing an email to one of your yoga students, which is essentially what you're doing. What would you want to tell them about what's happening in your life? What's relevant to you? What lessons are you learning? What music are you listening to? What book are you reading?
I recently went to this fabulous course in Philadelphia called Heroic Public Speaking. And one of their slogans is be a performer, don't be a critic. And, people often get caught up in oh, am I good enough? Who am I to talk about this? When I first started doing podcasts, I was like that too, because I'm not the best SEO in the world. I'm pretty good at it, but there's people that are better than me and more knowledgeable in different parts of it. And so you go, well, who am I to talk about this? When I was talking with some giants of industry over the last week, they all have specialized knowledge in little different bits, but I go, I'm providing value, I'm providing service. I hope whoever's listening to this, learns a lot from it and gains from it. And, I love that saying, you can't be nervous when you're in service. I'm trying to serve people. That's great. If you want to listen to my message, then I hope it was helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I really like that. I think that that's a great way to think about that. And so I just have one more topic that I want to cover. I know, obviously you're an entrepreneur. You've started a massive business. You are also a yoga practitioner. And I know you're a regular meditator, I guess you would say. You have a regular meditation practice as well as a morning routine practice. Can you talk a little bit about how that has really helped you to grow your business and be successful as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm an Ashtangi when everything is flowing nicely. I'd just been away for a week, so I'm kind of out of schedule. But usually I go to bed nice and early, and I wake up before my alarm at 5 o'clock. So I usually wake up around 10 to 5, something like that. I walk to the studio. Thankfully, it's nice and close. Have a cup of tea on the way. Stretch out and relax while my Ashtangi buddy arrives. And then we practice as the sun comes up, which is beautiful. But last year in December, so 11 months ago, I had this kind of big business hiccup. A bunch of data got destroyed, and we lost about 3 months' work.
Oh my gosh.
And so we got 47 employees, and so when you're losing like 3 months' work, that's a real lot of work. And it caused huge disruptions, and I was like out of my mind. Like, we lost some customers, thankfully not too many, but we managed to recover and keep going and put some things in place. But, I was a freaking mess, and, my mat was my safety. I'd get there in the morning and you just chill and stay focused, and this is all that matters right now. And you just into the breathing and into the movement, and nothing can hurt you. And that is certainly what got me through that.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely relate to that. I think that, and even if your morning routine isn't, a yoga practice, which I think for a lot of my self-employed life, it hasn't been. It's been more like a journaling practice, a meditation, drinking a hot cup of lemon water. And I'm just a big proponent of whatever it is that you can wake up to, and you can kind of have this introspective moment that can start your day off really well, can be really helpful, especially during those times of chaos, because we don't have a looking glass that we can look into and say 6 months down the road, there's going to be a massive hiccup and we're going to lose 3 months worth of data. Let's prepare now. It's no, we need to know how to deal with those situations when they come up in the moment. And I feel like having that kind of place to turn inwards where you can breathe and, just kind of, let your thoughts clear and let your thoughts settle is really, really important to be able to cope with those types of things.
Yeah, that everything's going to be okay regardless,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel I don't know, did you ever come from a place where you weren't doing that type of stuff, where it was more get up, rushed, drinking a bunch of coffee, maybe checking the news, checking social media, versus what you do now?
Yeah, for sure. Before I was a yogi, I've only been a yogi for about 3 years. Before that, and about 3 years previous to that, so around 6 years ago, I went through a pretty tough time and had a crazy girlfriend, the one that I was running away from. And I was not in a good mindset. I was drinking too much alcohol and just not happy in life and not knowing how to deal with pressures. So it's certainly nice to have a routine and these sort of tools. Yoga is just such a great tool to teach you about life. And so when times get tough, you got these tools to rely on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. And I think I was just asking because I think a lot of people who come to yoga come from, it's not for most of us, we weren't doing it since we were really little, but it's we come from a place where we were really high stress. And I know for me, my quote unquote morning routine used to be snoozing a bunch, getting up really quickly, focused on getting ready, maybe shoving some food down my throat super quick, no intention behind eating, just I need to eat and get out the door, drinking a bunch of caffeine to get me through the day. And I feel whenever anything stressful happened in my life, I just didn't know how to cope with it. It was really overwhelming for me. I would get really angry really easily, and I can look now and be wow, I have all these practices in place that really help me deal with anything that comes my way.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I'm curious where people can go to find out more about you and the services that you offer over at Ardor.
Yeah, certainly. So if they'd like to have a chat, they can just Google the coolest guy in SEO. They'll see my pretty face. Click on that, and you can feel free to book in a call. We can just have a chat. It's fine. If you've got any questions, I can help you help yourself and build a strategy. No problem.
Okay, awesome. And what is your website?
So our website is Ardor, Ardor, which means to do things with passion, SEO.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Kris. It was really, really great chatting with you.
Awesome, Amanda. Really appreciate it.
All right, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed that episode with Kris Reid. If you have any questions about SEO, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to myself or reach out directly to Kris. I know we did kind of a broad overview and there's a lot of different sort of terms and lingo in there that might seem really overwhelming, but know that there's definitely people you can reach out to and that we're here to help. And a huge thank you once again to Kris for coming on the podcast. And a huge thank you to my sponsors, Ceteris, Yoga Boss Babe, and Fave Yogis. I'm so grateful that they're able to support the podcast and give you awesome deals to check out their amazing products and services. To find out more from today's episode, you can visit the website at www.mbomyoga.com. You can find me on social media at Mastering the Business of Yoga on Facebook and Instagram. And you can also join the private Facebook community at Yoga Business Badasses. Just search it in the search bar on Facebook and I will let you in. As always, thank you so much for listening and namaste.